Hey guys, today you're going to be hearing from Suzy Myers Jackson of SparkYouth New York. And we have a really interesting story to tell today of just how I've gotten to know Suzy over the years. So today she is executive director of SparkYouth. And in essence, they are not only fundraising for their own mission, which is really igniting the growth of community-based organizations in New York City for young people. A lot of the people they fund are my clients as well. But she is all raising funds for her organization, but also they are funders. And so there are some just different complexities, challenges, opportunities that we're going to talk through today. I met Suzy and we clicked, and I really liked her immediately when she was actually serving as the interim director for one of my clients who you've heard on this podcast, Yamale Tucson Beach. And Suzy and I think, had a lot of shared approaches to fundraising, and we clicked. And so I had the opportunity to work with her and her team when she pivoted into her new role. And then today I'm actually teaching a fundraising cohort with some of their grantees. And that has been a really, really fun exercise for us this year. So you're going to hear stories from Suzy from all of these angles. But I think you'll be inspired about her journey as a fundraiser, what she's learned, and just the impact that they're having in such an amazing city like New York City. So enjoy. Suzy, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
You are most welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness. So I should say Suzy Myers Jackson. I love another woman with three names. So I always use all three of your names from Sherry Quam Taylor here. Suzy, so we're going to talk about so many different angles of fundraising today, just because of your deep background in fundraising. But I guess I have to ask the question of, like, how in the world did you get into fundraising? Just to start our conversation and set the tone.
Sure. I always say I learned fundraising by fire. I didn't go to school to become a nonprofit executive or to be in development. I went to school for theater. I graduated and started working pretty soon after as a teaching artist in New York City and New York City public schools for an organization that I then ended up becoming the executive director of and running for 17 years. And we built that organization. And I say we, it certainly was not just me, but from a budget of about $15,000 to over $2 million.
Wow.
We went from partnering with 3 to 57 New York City public high schools. So lots of growth, lots of different stages, lots of different hats that I wore. And for a very long time, there was no development staff other than myself. And I think actually, I think some things that you learn by doing theater. I always say if you get to do theater growing up, it will help you be successful in whatever it is you decide to do in life. I think when I think, how have I been successful in fundraising and how does that relate to my experience in theater? I think I know how to connect with people. I know how to listen. I know how to yes and.
Yes.
I know how to I always think about sort of finding the shared why, which I think is also just something I learned from my dad and traveling, and always, when you meet someone new, kind of figuring out both where you're different and also where you're the same. So I would say fundraising, I came into it because I landed in an executive director role at a nonprofit, and that means you have to fundraise.
Here we go. Yeah.
And so I just listened and tried to absorb and learn from everyone that I could, but mostly at Opening Act, we just built our community. We built relationships, we built community. And when we invited people to be a part of that community, oftentimes that involved investing in the work. So.
Yeah. Did you do, I'm wondering if you did like improv, and if like that thinking on your feet in a donor meeting has been part of just like kind of owning and being confident in a conversation in fundraising.
Yeah. Growing up and sort of my acting background was not improv. I really liked a script. I continue to like a script. Yeah. Even if I'm going into a donor meeting or something, I rehearse in advance. But at Opening Act, in fact, even when I started as a teaching artist there when I was 23 years old, our curriculum was based in improv. And that was very scary for me. But I really learned and drank the Kool-Aid of improv by teaching young people and then having to do it myself with them. just incredible life lessons,
Wow.
including, yes, being able to think on your feet, being able to yes and, you know, facing the fear. That's something that you say in improv, face the
Yeah.
fear, yes, and make your partner look good. Like all those rules about improv. I mean, they can apply to anything in life, but they definitely continue to serve me well in terms of
Yeah.
fundraising.
So good. I'm already reading my LinkedIn post of writing when I promote this podcast of hearing how fundraising aligns with
Yeah.
improv and theater. Okay, so we met, and I talked about this when I gave a little intro when you were doing an interim position for
Hmm.
our also mutual 3-name person, Yamale Toussaint Beach.
Hmm.
And we clicked and all those things. And now you're over here at Spark Youth New York. So tell me about that journey. Tell me about the organization you're running right now and just the amazing work that you're doing there in New York.
Sure. So as I said, I'd been at Opening Act for 17 years. It was time, you know, to move out of that role. We spent about 9 months planning for my transition, not
Mm.
knowing that then the date that I would leave would be in February of 2020.
Oh, wow.
So I had, you know, grand ideas of, you know, stepping away from what had really been my entire adult career and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do next. Instead, I had 2 young children who had to
Mm.
be homeschooled. We like
Oh
delved
my
into
gosh, Suzy.
pandemic and remote learning and all those things. And also, I mean, just from a personal perspective, the world was in such chaos, didn't feel like I could just not work for a while.
Right.
So unfortunately, I think a lot of nonprofits were having to lay people off and then we're looking for some kind of emergency plug-in
Mm.
help from consultants. So I ended up plugging into a handful of different organizations in a variety of roles, consulting on fundraising and development, consulting around management, team building, etc. But I did end up, yes, as interim at STEM from Dance, which was amazing for a bit. Spark Youth, where I am now. So I'm the executive director of Spark Youth. I've been here for 2 years. But before that, I was on the Spark Youth board for
Mm.
5 years. And before that, I was a grantee of Spark Youth, then called Catalog for Giving. So we did a name change in there. But I had actually been involved with this organization then for over a decade before the opportunity came up to step into this role.
Mm.
Um, and Spark Youth, what we do is invest in and support emerging, innovative youth development organizations in New York City. So, you know, how each of those organizations sparks young people, I say, is different. It could be like STEM from Dance, you know, using dance to bring more girls of color into the STEM fields. It could be working with young people aging out of foster care to establish their first apartment, their first home. It could be using sports, you know, lacrosse to work with young people in the South Bronx and help them achieve academically as well. So kind of the spark or the tool that each organization is using is different, but all of the organizations are working with young people in New York City and really having a transformational impact on their lives.
I
So
love it.
that's the organizations we serve, and then our model and how we invest in those organizations is three-pronged. So financial support, we make a multi-year unrestricted, which I know we both love, general operating support commitment. We do everything in a cohort model. So the leaders are getting this built-in peer network to grow with and learn from. And then our secret sauce is what we call the cofactor lab, which is capacity building, technical assistance, professional development, whichever of those, you know, rings true to you, but it's really supporting organizations investing in themselves so they can become more sustainable assets for their communities and for their youth. So that may be
Uh,
providing leadership coaches, helping them develop strategic plans, and last but not least, partnering with amazing consultants like yourself to help them improve their own fundraising and financial management systems.
uh, well, we'll get to that. I loved every minute of that, and I feel like you really do have this unique of group of leaders. I just have loved the angle of like you said, the lacrosse and the STEM and there's such a unique I don't know leader that you've brought together. I've just loved the synergy of everybody. Okay, Suzy. So when you originally reached out, you know, yes, we were talking about me teaching one of these or coming alongside some of the grantees, but we also did a little test and worked together, just as you were getting ready to really scale your organization, SparkYouth specifically. Tell me, like, what were you hoping to accomplish other than testing me and making sure I was legit, which I fully open and was welcome to. But you're an organization who is fundraising and is a funder,
Right.
and there are complexities there. So talk to me about what opportunities you saw, just, really why why you reached out originally.
Yeah. Well, the fundraising model that I stepped into at SparkYouth has been very successful for them in terms of bringing in revenue. The vast majority of our revenue comes in from one annual gala. So we raise, a lot of money on that one night.
A big number.
Which is great.
Incredible.
It is also, obviously COVID that year, I wasn't in the role of executive director, but they couldn't have a gala. I am forever when was raising money for opening act or, consulting other organizations, you want to have a diverse pool of funds. And so on the one hand, gala revenue is great because it tends to be unrestricted, right?
Yep.
But there are limitations there. And I think particularly what I saw as an opportunity is to start building a more relationship-based fundraising culture at the organization. We have an incredible board of directors who really takes their responsibility of raising money very seriously and utilizes the gala to do so. The challenge there is that a lot of those donations that we're getting are very tied to the relationship to that board member and not necessarily that donor's relationship to our organization.
Yeah.
Some of that is okay. Like for me to have some portion of the pie be that's fine. But if I'm thinking about taking our organization to the next level and scaling not only our work, but the revenue we need to do that work, we need relationships with donors. We need a more diversified stream. And we need to really be building those relationships, not even just with me, but really to the organization. Yeah. So I saw an opportunity to shift that. And I also knew that we had an incredible, not even pipeline. Like we already have the donors. We have people who are giving very generously. And I really saw an opportunity to build relationships where we could get them to give their best gift. I think that was something, when I talked to you early on, I thought, I don't think everyone's giving their best gift. And so, let's see if we can get that sort of subset of people to give their best gift and see the impacts that can make on our bottom line, which really is about how much work we can do for our grantees.
Right. Oftentimes people come to me, say, how do I find mid and major level donors? You have the problem that everybody wants, and you're like, tremendous people giving to us and already giving generously.
Yeah.
But there is that next level opportunity to say, well, hold on, if they are giving as a result of an event, because the majority of them kind of are, usually that's not their best gift. So there's just, I always say, like, I can see the money on the table. And that's really where we started.
Well, and I think Rhea Wong, who's another wonderful person. We were grantees of SparkYouth at the same time and then served on the board together. She's on the board. And she described our problem very aptly as us having a leaky bucket. We were getting all these folks in, through the gala, but then depending on who their connection was to an honoree or a board member, they would drip away from us.
Right.
So how are we keeping them? How are we keeping them with the organization? So I think that's some of the work that
Perfect analogy. So in that, this is where I feel like your theater background, like you're obviously an established fundraiser, but also even when I'm coaching you, you're like, got it. And you go do it. It's like, I have the meeting in 2 hours. I'm going to go do it. What would you say, like kind of maybe what aspects of our work really have started to make the difference as you've shifted these event donors, I'll call them, into relational and event donors?
Yeah. Well, since we've started working with you, we really have been focused on our board as donors. And again, they were all already giving, but we wanted to start there. They're our strongest supporters.
Yeah.
You know, they believe in our mission. We had already made the decision before we started working with you. This was something I had learned and agree with you very much on, to remove the dollar amount give get for our board.
Yes.
So when I stepped in, there was a price tag, you know, attached to it. And we made that shift. I wanted to make that shift for a couple of reasons. One, because I felt that, you know, if you don't ask folks for more, they don't often give more.
Yep.
And I feel like there was room for some of our board members to reframe their thinking of, oh, there's a sort of check mark. I sent in my invoice kind of thing with my check, and shift that into more of, you know, what's your best gift, what's investment level, what's meaningful to you. So I saw that opportunity. And then also, as we are continuing to diversify our board in a lot of ways, you know, race, age, gender, profession, and really wanting to make sure that the value everyone brings to the table as is seen as value.
Yeah.
I'll just say personally, you know, I had served on the board and I was one of the nonprofit people on the board. So I got a pass on the give get requirement.
Yeah.
Which was great. I couldn't have afforded it. You know, I couldn't have been on the board otherwise, but it also started to sort of set up my value add as being different than someone who could fundraise. So I also just wanted to shift the culture to say,
Yes.
we're bringing people onto this board for different types of value they add to the board, but I want all of their values to be seen, you know, equally, or at least as all being
Yes.
valid and important to the organization. So we shifted that. And so we started having these one-on-one conversations with our board, you know, about their giving. There's a couple tools that you gave us that I think really helped me to talk more, to name the numbers, to talk more transparently and straightforward about the numbers, but without it being a guessing game. So something that, even though, yes, I've been a fundraising consultant, and I feel like I had success at opening act fundraising, I still always got nervous when you get to the point in the conversation where you're supposed to like name the number. Like, will you
The
give
money
us
talk.
5,000? No, too much. 2,000? Maybe you'll consider 1,000. You know. And I would always coach people like, when you name your number, then you have to be silent and let them think about it and consider. But I just always had a hard time figuring out, well, what's the right number for that person? I'm not in the weeds of I don't know what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
And I don't want to presume anything, even by someone's job title, even if I know their salary. For all I know, they're caring for family members. They're,
Sure.
you know, I just never want to make any assumptions. And, you know, one of the tools you gave us, which I don't know if I'm allowed to name, but your
Sure.
magical gift chart, like really helped me to tell the story to the board members and draw the connections between what we want to accomplish, what that costs, how that breaks down in terms of the size gifts we need to get to that number, and then helping them see where their giving currently fits in and being able to ask them to consider increasing, but without saying, will you go from 25,000 to 35,000?
Yeah.
Saying, this is where you are now. These are the size gifts we need. Would you consider one of those? So I feel like it really, it made me more confident in the conversations. Of course, the first one I felt a little nervous.
You did great though.
It made me more confident in those conversations. And I hope, this is sort of to be seen, but as we continue to talk to our board members and other donors that way, that then we are modeling for them and giving them some of the language and the tools to make asks as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's hard for a board member to ask their network to give their best gift if they aren't themselves. And so sometimes the steps of us really reflecting and saying, wait, are we providing the journey, the tools, the whatever that is helping a board member give their best gift? And like you said, if $50 is the board member's best gift, how amazing that they would invest in your mission.
Yeah.
And if 50,000 and 50 million, whatever that best gift is, that is our job, to share the need and ask for the best gift. Suzy, one thing I'd be curious to know, just because you have been, obviously, as somebody who's on the board and really been on a journey with the organization, what has it been like shifting the board from a very like focused gala fundraising to more of a annual fund cadence and help bringing them into relationships outside of that gala season. Have they welcomed that? Has that been just like a learning experience?
I would say we're still very much in process. We started working with you, I mean, less than a year ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the sort of 18 to 24 months
Yeah.
to get a donor to that level of conversation is what we're planning on. I think for board members, we were able to crunch that timeline a little more, just because, again, they were obviously already they were already investing in the organization, their belief in the organization, et cetera. It's been tricky, I would say. And that's why I say I think we're in process. The particular professional sort of sphere that most of our board members are in, gala culture is very well known. It is the way they get asked, and it has been the way they ask.
Yeah.
And for me also stepping in, I don't want to, it would be irresponsible to to turn over the apple cart. That
Totally.
gala is really successful for us. It allows us to do the work. So I think how we're trying to approach it is really recognizing where the gala and how the gala can continue to be successful for us. But then what I'm really trying to sort of push board members to think about is, what is that subset of donors within the gala who really seem interested in the work, who don't just say, okay, yeah, I'll have my company write the check. I'm not coming. I'll send all my junior people. Who are the people who come and went, wow, that was listening to that.
They're inspired.
That, yeah. I was like, those are the people that we just want to keep building relationships with. That's all. Maybe they become board members. Maybe they start giving at a different level. Maybe they connect us to someone else. So my ask of the board members has been to pay attention, to who those people are. And I do think one key shift that I ask them to do that they have done, and I think it has already made a tremendous impact, is at the gala, just to say, will you really thoughtfully fill your table?
Yes.
You be really strategic in who you're inviting to join you. Because then the gala, for a lot of those people at your table, isn't going to be the ask. It's a piece of the cultivation. If the gala is also professionally a great opportunity for them to network, it's like a place to be seen, great. Leverage that to get folks in the door. And then we'll follow up with them after the gala and hopefully take them to see a program or have a conversation.
Yes.
And so I think that has been really successful. But that's, as
good
you know,
advice.
that's only the starting point.
Yes.
So we are still very much in process, but I have been really energized and grateful by the board's willingness to just try some things that are a little different, while also, again, yes-anding, which is a very theater thing, what's working, right? And saying we're not changing everything. We have an opportunity to build, though, this foundation that we have laid. So, and I would say that's sort of where we are.
I feel like, Suzy, there's this, I think it's a culture you guys as a staff are creating of like they're very open to learning. I mean, they've been very open. I mean, you've started with all the board members. Their gifts have grown. I mean, one meeting after another, their gifts are already growing beyond their gift get or beyond what they were giving before. But it really does take this culture of like, oh, wait, we're going to do this a little differently. Tell me about it. I always say that one of the biggest characteristics I would want on a board member is someone who wants to learn and says, actually, I do this over here. I'm not a fundraiser, but tell me what you mean by that, or tell me what that new strategy would look like for me, and to be open to trying it. And I really think you're leading well in that area because you're seeing results. You're seeing them start making moves at the gala and saying, hey, don't feel any pressure to give. I'd love for you to meet Suzy. That doesn't happen as quickly often. So, kudos to you guys.
I mean, the thing is, our board members, across their different professional fields are all very successful and very successful at building relationships in their professional worlds. And so it's interesting because they have been using those relationships to get an investment in Spark Youth.
Yes.
But really the shift that I'm asking them for is, for some subset of your folks though, can you not just leverage the existing relationship to get the gift? Can you actually build a new relationship between them and Spark Youth, or between them and, myself or our grantees? And that's I think the key difference, because they know how to build relationships.
Right.
They're amazing.
They're
at
naturals.
it. And they're willing to leverage those relationships on behalf of an organization they believe in and care deeply about. And so our conversation is more about, just like we do with our grantees, the long-term sustainability of our organization means that we need to be building relationships and building gifts that are not simply transactional.
Yes. I love that. Last question on Spark Youth, and I do want to talk a little bit about the cohort and how this is transitioning to that. But any surprises or like top takeaways that you would say as a result of our work together?
I feel like you have, Sherry, a really beautiful way of sort of modeling conversations with donors that is approaching folks with curiosity. And I think that it takes away a lot of the fear, not just for me, but and I know we're going to talk about sort of how you've been working with some of our grantees. I think a lot of the work that I've done with you has reaffirmed some things that maybe I knew, or I used to talk about this with Brooke Ritchie Babbage, who we also would know.
We also fangirl over. Yeah.
This something being organic to being intentional. I think there were things that maybe I did as a fundraiser or in building relationships with people that were organic to me, right? That are who I am, from being a theater person or whatever, who I am, and sort of being able to learn from you and really name certain things as being intentional. And I think what that helps, I think what's great about that, when I think about really wanting to build out sort of a core of fundraisers at Spark Youth, not just myself. It's not about Suzy, the fundraiser. It's not the Suzy show.
Right.
But the tools that I'm getting from you and sort of our way of approaching donors become something that I can do, my colleagues can do, our board members can do. And I think you've helped to, again, sort of make that intentional and name it so that we can articulate it and then replicate it.
Yeah. And get in that rhythm.
Yeah.
It's a team sport, and you have a great team. It's a team sport. Okay. So why don't you lay the land on, I call it the cohort. You called it a much fancier name. I'll let you read or say it again to me, but give me the lay of land on how this came to be. I mean, you talked a little bit about the capacity building, that I love that you guys are so invested in the organizational growth, the leaders' growth. But give a little bit of the lay of the land, and we'll talk about how that's happening. And I think we've just started it here a couple months ago, but I feel like we're going to see results here soon, because you've got some rock stars in that class.
So as I said, I've been in this role for 2 years, and I think that the current cohort of grantees we have, it's 15 organizations. We make a 3-year commitment to them. So I will say that in my first, year or two with them, and I was transparent with them about this, there's a bit of experimentation, me learning from them, really trying to lead with listening, not coming in and saying, okay, I'm the new executive director, and I know what you need as an organization. Yeah. This is what we're going to give you. So my amazing colleague, Kelly, who's been here for 10 years and had worked, very closely hand in hand with my predecessor, Flo, who's amazing also. Kelly and I decided at the beginning of the cohort, let's start with sort of an organizational assessment and really meet with each organization one-on-one and try to craft the capacity building work, which the fancy word we call all of that the cofactor lab.
Thank you.
And really try to address their unique needs and not be one size fits all. And I do remember, I don't know if I ever told you this, in the first survey we sent them, we named a lot of different kind of buckets of nonprofit, excellence or topics. Where might you need more support around leadership, management, legal, etc. The only bucket that every single organization said they wanted help on was fundraising.
Money.
So we knew that there was an opportunity there to support organizations. We do have a wide range of organizations. So, even just financially, and where an organization is with their fundraising when they are a staff of 1.5 and their budget's $200,000 is very different than an organization that's at the $1.5 million mark and has the head of development, et cetera. And so we knew when we were providing different fundraising resources that we couldn't sort of do one program for everyone. And so I think what we got really excited about with you working with the cohort is that, you do have kind of this sweet spot of helping organizations get from one point to the next. Mm-hmm. And it's actually very much what we do, right? We don't invest in startups. And we're not investing in organizations when they're already at the $5 million mark. We're really plugging in at what we call like second stage. So to us, they already have amazing programs with young people. And we're going to help them build all that sort of behind the scenes stuff with their organization so they can do more work with young people. And I feel like for you, what you are bringing to our cohort is, a parallel on fundraising. You're coming to work with our organizations who they already have some good stuff going on.
Yeah, they're doing great things.
Yeah, they've got someone working on development, and they have the beginnings of an individual donor base, but they sort of need a little plug-in of expertise and support to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And so that's what I feel like you're helping them do, which we're really excited about.
I love it. What's your feeling on the group model versus, like, as someone who's done individual coaching with me in the group model? I love the collaborative spirit of the team coming together and the learned, just the crossover. And probably it's because they know each other because they've been participating in other things. But I feel like that's kind of magical with this group, of this like shared learning experience.
I agree. I think that being an executive director of a small to mid-sized nonprofit can be a very lonely, exhausting job. And I think, you can just kind of feel all alone in your challenges,
Yeah.
And so I think with fundraising too, being able to have folks work in a cohort, they're not only getting sort of support from other people, but they're seeing how some of their challenges are mirrored with other people. So you're not feeling so alone, and or seeing how, that person had the same challenge, but they've found a way to address it. Yes. I'm just going to go back to acting again, because I just remember in, scene study class in college, the reality was you were only up on stage working on your scene for a very small portion of the class. The vast majority of the class, you were watching other people learn.
Yep.
And you had to learn from that. And oftentimes that's where you do learn the most. And so I think that that's one of the benefits of having, like in one of the recent sessions, I know, you worked with one of our EDs and sort of did a test run of the financial plan, and we're able to then have other organizations watch with this real live example. And I think that's really helpful, and, and allows people to sort of apply lessons and sort of see how, again, things are not one size fits all. Yeah. I think that's the other thing that's important, is you have to see how, Josie's needs may be a little bit different than Evan's needs, and how do you tweak?
Yeah. So good. So good. Suzy, how can people find you if they want to connect in any way, shape, or form, even theater, with you? Let me know what the best way is for people to find you.
Sure. Our Spark Youth website is SparkYouthNYC.org. You can find me on there. My email is just Suzy@SparkYouthNYC.org, SUZY. I'm on LinkedIn. Those are the places.
All the places. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Suzy. I appreciate you bringing your expertise to the podcast.
You are very welcome.